Friends, welcome. I'm Reverend Alita Ward, co-pastor of Greenfield Hill Church, along with my husband, David Rowe, who's working the lights back there. 2 years ago, we invited John Trautwein to speak to our high school youth group here at Greenfield Hill, which he just did again tonight. And it was the most important evening we've ever had with our youth group, and I've been here 32 years, so that says something. And after that evening, the first thing I thought was, when can I get him back? And it is our great joy to have him back tonight. But first, I want to introduce my friend, Jim Cookso, Kevin's dad.
Thank you, Alita. Just being here and knowing how special ASP was to Kevin and all the good that you do, I just want to thank you for that. I mean, that trip really brought joy to my son, and he learned how to give, and it was a huge disappointment that he was not able to go on it due to the pandemic. It's great to see everyone here today. I see so much family and friends and community members, and we've been talking throughout Fairfield today since 9:40 in the morning. I think this is the fifth stop. John Trautwein is a former Major League pitcher, and he's going extra innings right now. Krista and I want to say thank you to just the whole community for your support. And it's been amazing from just the time Kevin died, that everyone's just, whether it's the GoFundMe page or the meal train that Amy Hio set up, where people were bringing us food until the end of June, and people are still doing that now, but just embracing and supporting our family, and it's been amazing. It really is a community, and I wouldn't think I would get that. I think I would have to be in a more Midwest small town, but the town's been amazing. When I think back to the vigil outside our house, the wake, the Ward Ludlow lacrosse game, and most recently the teal out at Ward, there was so much love in the air. And I would like to think that if Kevin knew how much love was out there for him, he would have made a different choice. He would have chosen chosen life. Our town has definitely been through a lot with the deaths of Jake Panis and Kevin. And I know there are people struggling out there, whether it's youths or adults. The facts are that 1 in 5 people are struggling with depression right now or some type of mental illness. And if there are people thinking about this, I want you to know that taking your own life is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, okay? And all these things, they are temporary. And if you need help and you're not sure where to turn to, there's a National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-TALK. And for parents in Connecticut, you can dial 211, just like 911 for an emergency. 211 is out there for mental health emergencies. There was a parent, we get people asking us, hey, Jim, I'm having a problem with my son right now, my daughter right now, and we recommended them to go to 211, and they were able to help them. So this whole thing is navigating this with your children is scary, and it could be overwhelming, but there is help out for you. At the teal out, I talked about the concept of Afterglow, and we asked Alita to be a speaker to eulogize Kevin. She was one of 4 people, and she had said that, and it just stays with me, and I'm going to go with this from here on out. But she said that a student wrote that Kevin's afterglow will last forever. That afterglow will be in every moment of kindness that someone offers to another because they remember Kevin giving them that kindness. That afterglow will be in every selfless act that someone does because they witnessed Kevin do it first. His afterglow will be in that moment when someone refuses to leave another until they've seen them smile, because they remember Kevin's persistence with them. His afterglow will be seen in someone pulling over to help because they remember Kevin sprinting down the roadside to tend to a hurting man. His afterglow will be seen in a student, a Ludlow student, who did a portrait of Kevin's yearbook photo and gave it to me and Kristen as a gift. His afterglow will be seen in a group of students who chose to start a nonprofit and donate proceeds to Will to Live. So I don't know if everyone knows this, but the sweatshirt I'm wearing, students, seniors in the entrepreneurship class at Ward, they have every semester they are tasked with starting a business, running it, and getting a profit and so forth, and then dissolving the business. Well, and they get to keep the profits for that business that they do. This year, they chose to start a nonprofit called Spread Smiles Fairfield, and they've been selling these shirts, these sweatshirts, to raise awareness for their fallen friend. And what did they donate, John, today?
The football team?
No, the entrepreneurship class.
Over $1,000, I think.
Yeah, I think more is coming, but just amazing. And his afterglow will be seen in the community when a high school football stadium chants, "We love Kevin." His afterglow will be seen in the buddy bench at Jennings Elementary and people reflecting at the bench at Highwood Park. His afterglow will be seen in a community embracing and supporting a family that is struggling. Kevin's afterglow will be seen when each of us loves a little harder, cares a little deeper, and holds a little tighter. So we can honor Kevin by spreading his afterglow. In April, FCAC Commissioner and Ward Athletic Director Dave Schultz had asked me if I had heard of John Trautwein, and I hadn't. So I did like anyone else would, and I Googled him. I found the Will to Live website and watched his speaking engagements. And there are so many similarities between John's family and mine. John's son, Will Trautwein, and mine played lacrosse. John speaking to students and athletes in my background with youth sports. My grandfather founded the FCAC. My dad was commissioner for 38 years. And now the FCAC is adopting John's Life Teammates program. I have found a purpose in a way I can deliver the message of mental health awareness and suicide prevention. But most of all, I found hope and support from John, a total stranger who called me to let me know that he was 10 years out from his son Will taking his own life, and that I could survive too. You see, it's those little things that you can do to make a difference in someone's life. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce a man who has been an inspiration and a mentor to me. And let's give a big Fairfield welcome to John Trautwein. So I just want to give a word of encouragement to you, John. You're in the bottom of the ninth, all right? You're in the bottom of the ninth. Don't throw the fastball to McGuire, or throw the sinker right now, all right?
Thank you, Jim. So, love you, man. We've had so many donations from the Fairfield community. So, Jim, it's actually over $5,000 these sweatshirts have raised. Money raised by kids in honor of their friend. And that concept of for the kids and through the kids and by the kids is so powerful. And when Jim and I speak and we talk about this challenges that our kids face, it's good. When the kids speak, it's powerful. It's at a whole different level. So the fact that they did this and the fact that they were motivated and inspired to do that is such a wonderful thing, and it's so wonderful for your family. But it's also a sign of Kevin, right? And it's so, I'm just touched by it. And it's so much fun to see what you're doing here. And what Jim is doing here, I know, is very, very difficult. But at the same time, it's wonderful. And it's like being on the top of a roller coaster and the bottom of the roller coaster at the same time, all day long. The love that just transcends everything, and then the tragedy of losing a loved one at the same time, all day long, is a challenge that you'll have the rest of your lives. But these guys are going to be here with you. I'm going to be here with you. And so you keep doing this, because not only does the community need to hear the message of mental illness, I think you need to preach it. And I'm just so pleased and so much fun to see how this is what's happening here. And this is speech number 5 for me today. Oh, well, there's a cord on my trip. Remember, I'm a pitcher. So this is speech number 5. Each one's about 45 minutes. So I'm actually quite proud of myself right now that I still have a voice. And I've got a couple more tomorrow. And this is the second round through Fairfield. So a couple years ago in December, I was out here. And I was brought here by a couple of very, very good friends of mine, a couple of life teammates of my own that are here, Ab Igram and Steve Bogan, who all went to Northwestern and played Northwestern baseball with me. And when I get to make trips like this and give these kind of speeches, and I do it a lot. It's been a little bit less over the past year because of the pandemic, but over the past 11 years, I've done a lot of speeches. And every single one of them that I traveled to, every one, I'm talking hundreds, was at the invite of a life teammate of mine, which makes it that much more special. And it just proves the power that our friends have to deliver hope to each other. And when I gave these speeches today at both Ward and Ludlow High Schools and at the youth football program, and just half an hour ago across the street, I challenged these kids to recognize love and hope in this presentation. And it was my hope that they will look at themselves in the mirror tonight a little bit differently, knowing that A, they have true love and understanding in their lives sitting right next to them. And B, they have the power to deliver hope to their friends. And that was my challenge to them. And so I'm hoping it's coming through. I'm hoping it resonated with them. And when I think about the speeches of today and the responses, and for 45 minutes, 2,000 high school kids didn't speak. Right? Didn't take out their phone, didn't text anybody. You know why? Because they get it. They wanted to hear what I had to say. And 11 years ago, before my son died, I would not have come to this. Why do I need to come to this? Oh, it's so great that you're having it. Oh, I love the fact that, that's so great. Gosh, I wish you the best. I don't need to go, but my family's fine. But, that was me. Uneducated, unaware. So I'm going to take you guys through this story. This is the exact same presentation, except for a couple slides towards the end, that I gave to the kids today. And so as I present this, I'll talk a little bit about my strategy with them. Because what's really, really important right now is you are listening to not a doctor, not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, not a therapist, not a counselor. You're listening to a dad. Nothing more. A dad who has spent 11 years running a foundation to raise the awareness and increase the education of mental illness and depression and teen suicide, and work with teenagers to get them to deliver hope to each other. But I'm still just a dad. I'm just like you. So I hope you guys will appreciate that as I explain some of the things that I learned as I went through this journey. So there we are. There's the Trautweins. Susie and Will and Tommy and Michael and Holland. We live just outside of Atlanta, Johns Creek, Georgia. We've been there 24 years. I grew up in the Chicago area. I came from a very baseball and athletic family. My dad pitched in the Phillies organization. My brother pitched in the Mets organization. I went to Northwestern with my buddies over here and pitched at Northwestern, and then was fortunate enough to sign with the Montreal Expos in the minor leagues out of college, and shows how old I am. The Expos don't exist anymore. And during that time, 7 years of pro ball, 6 of them were in the minors, but I did, after 4 years with the Expos, I got traded and made the big leagues with the Red Sox. And in 1988, I had this wonderful opportunity to put on the Red Sox uniform and play in Fenway Park and all over the American League. If you Google me, though, you will be very disappointed. I wasn't that good. I looked good, but I wasn't that good. My wife, Susie, on the left here, she played lacrosse, and she played field hockey at the University of Virginia. So one thing that both Susie and I had in common was that we had a ton of teammates, a ton of them. Teammates from when we were 5 to me to when I was 30, Susie until she was 22. Lots of teammates, lots of team concepts, lots of team cliches. And we used that in our parenting. We were Team Trautwein, and good teams win, but great teams love each other. And were you being a good teammate, Will, when you had your brother Tommy in a headlock? I don't think you were. Right? Those kind of things. And my kids would roll their eyes because we were so teammate oriented, because I knew the power of great teammates, because I had so many of them. But what I didn't know is just how deep that power ran, and how these teammates would save me. Not just love me and be there for me, but save me and set me up on a whole different path. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. I work for a IT services company. I'm a chief customer officer. I'm in sales. And we have a good life down in Atlanta. I have a wonderful, wonderful marriage. Susie's nuts about me. And I'm nuts about her. And if you ask the people in our neighborhood about the Trautweins, they would always say, yeah, they got a good thing. Glass half full, positive, bright side of the road, positive passion, always looking at things in a positive window. What can we learn from this? Let's go. This is going to be great. Isn't this great? Isn't this wonderful? This was our family, and we were living the dream, and everybody agreed with that. And then the dream crashed when our oldest, our 15-year-old freshman in high school, took his life. Big and strong, handsome and healthy, leader of his friends, consultant of his friends, good student, very good athlete, an exceptional musician. He wrote songs. He was in a band. He was the lead singer of a band that they played at their 8th grade graduation, all the kids screaming. He had it all. The night before he died, we went to dinner. I came home from work. It was a Thursday. Weekend was coming, and I'm like, hey, Suze, let's go get some pizza. And she goes, yeah, go get Will. And I said, Will, he's downstairs. I said, Will, we're going to go get pizza. Can he come? He's like, well, I got a test tomorrow. Can you study me? Can you test me on the note cards at the restaurant? I said, sure, come on up. So he came running up, and Tommy had football practice. He was 13 at the time, so he couldn't come, but Michael was 11, and my daughter Holland was 6, and Will and Susie and I, we went to have pizza right down the road, and we sat there and had pizza, and Will started talking, and he told me about it's October 14th, and October 31st, Halloween, his band was going to play live in our cul-de-sac, and he showed me the list of songs he was going to sing, and I didn't know one of them, right? And I'm like, gee, Will, you going to play any Cat Stevens? He's like, no, right? But he was excited. And then he said, Dad, Saturday I have to ref lacrosse at noon. Can we get up at 9? Can we get to the Department of Transportation at 9 so I can get my driver's permit? My son hung himself in his bedroom the day before he was going to get his driver's permit. 2 weeks before he was going to play live his first concert. Mom, am I getting my braces off this Tuesday or next Tuesday? Notice no teeth in the pictures. 4 years of braces coming off. He had things that he was excited about. He had things that he was really looking forward to. And he was talking about 8 to 10 hours before he took his life. And if you would have told me that My son, who I know very well, and I was a hands-on loving dad, if you would have told me that he was struggling in any way, shape, or form, I would have told you were nuts. And if you would have told me he was struggling from depression or some other mental illness, I would have been offended. I would have said, he's fine. Are you kidding me? Look at him. He's a Trautwein. He's great. We're great. Back off. Because I was uneducated and I was unaware. And as a result, I lost a young man who made me a dad.
Who knows how long I've loved you? You know I love you still. Will I wait only lifetime? If you want me to, I will. For if I ever saw you, didn't catch your name, oh, it never really mattered. I will always feel the same. Love you forever and forever. Love you with all my heart. Love you whenever we're together. Love you when we're apart. When at last I find you, song will fill the air. Sing it loud so I can hear you. Make it easy to be near you. The things you do endear you to me. Oh, you know I will. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da da da.
So the song I Will by the Beatles is a song that I always sung to the kids when we were rocking them to sleep. And that voice you just heard was his brother Tommy. And Tommy was 13 when Will died, and Will was 15, and you can imagine the devastation of losing your idol and your big brother, and they were very, very close. And Tommy played the drums and Will played the guitar, and they would always jam together down the basement. It was very fun, and I used to play the piano a little bit. I'd join him once in a while, and we had so much fun. And the music stopped after Will died. And Tommy didn't play the drums anymore, and it just, life changed, and everything was different. And we had all these guitars. Will had 2 or 3 guitars that were hanging up in our basement. We had a little room where the drums were, and we had an electric piano in there. And I said to Tommy, I said, why don't you pick up one of Will's guitars? No way, Dad. I'm like, why? Will would beat me up if I ever touched his guitars. And I remember saying, Tom, I think Will's up there saying, do it, Tom. Pick up the guitar. I said, come here. And I showed him a couple chords on the guitar. By lunch the next day, he was better than me. It just happened. He can play by ear. He writes songs. He writes music. He just graduated from University of Georgia a year and a half ago, and he's started his own recording studio. He records music. He produces music. He writes music. He plays music. He's hosting his records company first festival on Saturday, all because of Will's guitar. And he carried the afterglow of Will through the music. And it's so neat to see that. And I know Tommy feels it when he says it. And so when we were putting this together last year for the 10th anniversary of Will's passing, Tommy said, I'll do the song, let's do I Will. And he played it. And that's sort of the high and low that we're on 24/7. You know what? I'll take it. We found a way to take the afterglow and make it part of our day. And that's the big challenge. But you can do it, and you are doing it, and I think that's what's so important. because we all have a story. And when Will died, people started coming out of the woodwork about their story of mental illness and depression and suicide in their lives. And it was just so eye-opening to me. This was back in 2010, and these friends of mine were telling me about suicide in their lives. It's like, I've known you for 10 years. You never talk about it. Oh, no, we don't talk about it. And I'm like, well, if your brother would have died of cancer, would you talk about it? Well, yeah, but no, suicide we don't talk about. And I remember just thinking, something's not right. Will never talked about it. Nobody knew, none of his friends knew anything. I didn't know anything. No one knew a thing. And yet, he's gone. And then these organizations in Atlanta and national organizations that are so wonderful about this awareness and prevention and education that I had never heard of course, started talking to me, and I started to learn these statistics that every 13 minutes in America someone's taking their life, and every 2 hours it's a teenager. I'm here for 2 days. During this time, I gave 5 speeches today. I'm going to give 3 more. I'm going to give 8 speeches on this, each one an hour long. And during that time, 24 teenagers in America are going to kill themselves. Wow! I never knew. I had no idea anything was like this. That family is the face of suicide. It is kids like Will. It's not just other side. Didn't know it. Uneducated and unaware, and nobody talks about it. It says 1 in 6 here. It's actually 1 in 5 of us suffer from depression. That's the fact. That's an actual fact. 1 in 5 of us. And right now, 1 in 2 of us are really messed up because of the pandemic. The anxiety and the stress is affecting 1 in 2 Americans right now, unlike they've ever had in their lives. It's hard. Life is hard. And 1 in 5 having a diagnosable mental illness is something that we all need to understand. And by the way, I said that to your children today. 1 in 5 of you have it. You all have many people in your lives that are struggling, but it's treatable, and it's beatable, and it's common, and it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Okay, that's an interesting concept for parents to hear. The fact that that family is the face of suicide was something that I would have never talked about in a million years. And I remember during that time, those early days, is what am I gonna do? I need to do something. I was like, Jim, I need to take this light of Will. I need to take this Afterglow of Kevin. I need to turn it into something that honors them and is positive. And how am I gonna do it? How can I get people to talk? How can I get kids like Will to talk because they're not talking? And I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was frustrated by that, and it was difficult, and I was a mess, and now it's the funeral, and I have to give the eulogy, and I'm standing up there, and I give a eulogy, and I'm talking to his teammates in their lacrosse jerseys, and I'm telling him what a great teammate he was, and how he loved the success of his friends, and he truly rejoiced in the success of his friends, which is a really interesting trait for a teenager to have. I was a pretty good athlete. I was a pretty competitive guy. I kind of rejoiced in the success of my friends as long as I was doing better. Right? And I remember saying, well, you could be that guy. You could have scored that goal. I'm good, Dad. He was so happy in making the pass. He was so happy in getting the ground ball. He did not care. He didn't want to be the star. Dad, wasn't Ben great? Wasn't he awesome? He is so good. And Will was so much better than Ben. And that's what I'm thinking, right? And I'm listening to Will, and I'm thinking, God, what a great kid. And so I'm explaining this to his friends, and I'm saying, he just rejoiced in you. He'd want you to love you. He'd want you to love each other. He'd want you to be there for each other. And while I'm giving this eulogy and while I'm speaking, I started to notice people in the audience of the church, and it was like twice the size of this church, and it was overflowing. And there's Mark Savard. Mark Savard was the other guard on my 7th grade basketball team in Barrington, Illinois. I had not seen him or talked to him in 30 years. He lives in upstate Wisconsin. He drove down to Atlanta to be there for his friend that he met when he was 13. There's Jimmy Bartels, the first baseman of my Little League team. There's Tick, there's Mods, there's Scooch, there's Friend, there's the whole other pitching staff at Northwestern University. There's a bunch of my high school football players. There's my high school baseball team. And I'm giving this eulogy, and I'm noticing my friends, and I'm realizing that these guys that I learned about life with, these guys that I was in the trenches with, these guys that I shared my first with, these guys that I called when I got a scholarship to Northwestern. These guys that I called when I got engaged. These guys that I asked to stand up for me at my wedding. All of my groomsmen were there. And they had come from all over the country in 2 days' notice. All 4 of the godfathers to my kids were there. And I'm giving this speech, and this was God's work. And I'm just giving this speech, and I'm talking to kids about will and loving each other and being there for each other. In the back of my mind, I'm like, I know what I'm gonna do. Because the greatest friends in my life were here. They were my life friends. They were my life teammates. And every single one of them I met when I was Will's age, when I was a teenager, when I was young. Oh, he had met life's greatest friends. Had he known that they were the guys that would stand up for his wedding, these are the guys that he's going to call when he gets engaged and when he has his first child, all of these things, they're going to be there for him because they love him and they want to be there for him. But he never thought of that. He didn't know better. And I thought, I'm going to teach these kids that true love and true hope and true understanding is sitting right next to them, right now, in the classroom, in the church youth group, in the church, on the sidelines, in the dugout, on the scouting group, in the camp group, in the band, in the choir, in the orchestra. Any activity you're doing, the people sitting next to you understand you. And I'm going to create a foundation that gets kids to recognize the love and the hope and perhaps most importantly, the understanding that exists in their friends. And that word understanding is a big one. Will knew that I loved him. Will knew that nobody loved him more than I did. But I don't think Will thought I understood him. Unfortunately, now I know I didn't. Who best understands what it's like to be a kid in this pandemic-laced world who's a senior in high school, who's already lost 25% of his high school, no, 35% of his high school, gone. Greatest years of his life, 35% of them ripped from him because of this pandemic. Who best understands what it's like to be that kid? His mom? No. His dad? No. Nobody loves him like his mom. Nobody loves him like his dad. But who really understands him? It's the kid going through the exact same thing. Who understands what it's like to be a 59-year-old guy trying to put 2 kids through college, trying to figure out how the heck am I ever going to retire? Right? My kids? No. Another 59-year-old, no, you're not 59, you're a young guy. Another 59-year-old guy trying to put 2 kids through college, trying to figure out how he's going to retire. It makes sense. The people that understand you are the ones that are sitting next to you. They are those peers. They're sharing those same challenges and they're sharing those same obstacles. So rejoice in that. Utilize that. Talk about it. They get you. And I think that's what was so important. I'm going to create a foundation that gets these kids to recognize the love and hope they have in each other and encourage them to talk, because it's so much easier for a kid to talk to a kid than it is for a kid to talk to an adult. That's a fact. It's proven. I win that argument. So let's encourage that. Let's create a culture that encourages kids to talk to each other. And then at the same time, let's create a community where the kids become educated on the fact that 1 in 5 of their friends are struggling. And that it is okay to not be okay. Something that parents struggle with. We don't like it when our kids are not okay. We gotta fix it. We gotta fix it now. We gotta fix it before they go to bed. We're gonna fix it. That's how I was. And by the way, I always had the answer. All-knowing dad. I used to refer to myself as all-knowing dad. I always had the answer. Not once did I say to Will, I have no idea. Pass. I don't know, dude. I'm here. How can I help? Because I'm clueless. I never said that. I always had the answer. I wish just once I would have just said, I don't know. But during that time, this concept of life teammates picked up, and I started to give a few speeches in some high school lacrosse teams and FCA groups and church groups, and they were asking me to speak, and I'm giving this speech about how important it is to be there for each other and love each other because life is hard and all of that. And I started to really get to learn about these kids, and I started to really pay attention to their lives. And I showed this slide to the kids today. I said, this is the most important slide I'm going to show. And I said, I'm going to show your parents this slide today. If there's anything that I have learned through this foundation, is that, wow, our kids living in this world with so much opportunity and these wonderful, wonderful organization and churches and schools and travel teams and these wonderful opportunities that they have in their lives come with amazing pressures at an age that is so much younger than when I was their age. And I said to them, you know, guys, you all have it harder than I did when I was your age. I said to them, you all have it harder than your parents did when they were your age. And they all looked at me and they basically telepathically said to me in unison, I love you. Because I said, you don't hear that very often, do you? And they're like, no. I said, well, I sure as heck never said it to my kids. I never thought about how difficult it is to be a teenager today and the challenges and pressures, because I was glass half full. I was looking at the positive. Isn't this a great team? You get to travel. Gee, Will, you're 12 years old and you're going on a travel lacrosse tournament to Charlotte and you're staying hotel with your teammates. I didn't get to do that until I was a senior in high school. This is so great. This is so awesome. Isn't this great, Will? And the whole time I was talking about how awesome it is. Will was perhaps thinking, I'm not sure it's that awesome, Dad. Because Will was being faced with a world that I didn't really stop to think about. That was a 24/7 barrage of not only information, but negative information and difficult. It was just hard. And Will was a freshman in high school. October, he'd been in high school for 2.5 months. Dad went to Northwestern University. Mom went to University of Virginia, two of the finest academic institutions in the land. The University of Georgia came to our school that September and said, you better get straight A's and you better take a whole boatload of AP classes if you want to get into Georgia. I didn't know that. I never talked to him about college. He was 15. We weren't even thinking about that. But society is talking to our kids. And by the way, one of the reasons for the University of Georgia being that way is that if you go in-state and you have a 3.5 grade point average, it's free. So everybody wants to get into University of Georgia. All of a sudden, University of Georgia is Ivy League because the entire state wants to go there. There's not enough spots. And I showed the kids today, I said, look at these schools. Guys, there is not enough spots. And when you get that rejection letter, and when your friend gets that rejection letter, and I hate to say this, guys, but it's coming. I want you to remember me. I want you to remember this. They're all good schools. And this is important for you guys to hear this, because they're going to want to talk to you about this. Because what I then said is, I'm an executive in a company. I've been doing this for 20 years. I interview people for jobs 10 times a year. Not one time have I ever said, when you were a sophomore at Fairfield High School, what did you get in American literature? Oh, a B. Okay. And what was your grade point? Oh, okay. Doesn't happen. I don't care if it's a Harvard degree. I don't care if it's an MIT degree. I don't care if it's a Kennesaw State degree. I don't care. I care about them. I care about you, kids. How did you look me in the eye? How did you shake my hand? What was your presence when you were in there? How did you answer the really ridiculous question I asked you to try to throw you off? Were you willing to say, I don't know? What was your sense of urgency like? When there's an issue, are you going to take ownership of it? Are you going to show up early? Are you going to stay a little bit late? What kind of a team player are you? What kind of a team experiences do you have? That's what I'm looking for. And I cannot get that from the degree. I get it from you. And I talked about how Northwestern gets ranked as 9th academic in the nation, one of the finest schools in the world, and I graduated from there. But every single boss I have ever had in my life did not go to a school that was as good as Northwestern. And you know what? Every single one of those bosses deserved to be my boss. It's not the school, it's you. Northwestern would laugh at my application from 1979 today. I don't even think we had AP classes, right? I didn't have to do this. And so, when I talk, sometimes I get the look. Sometimes it's from dads. I do get the look. Okay, wait. You're telling me that my son had it harder than I did. Okay. I had no shoes, walked in the snow both ways. Got my first car when I was 25, paid my way through college. All these great examples. And I said, Dad, keep coming, because you're me. I said the same thing, Dad. I said it. And then I say, Dad, did you have this? And he says, no. I won. I just won the argument. What comes with this is unlike anything that I had to deal with when I was 13 or 11 or 10 or 15 or in college or even in first years of after college. The 24/7 barrage of information is just unlike anything. Social media. When Debbie Feaker dumped me when I was 15, which she regrets. And I am not bitter, I swear I'm not. Nobody tweeted it. My relationship status in Facebook didn't change like Will's did when his girlfriend broke up with him 2 months before he took his life. And he found out about it through Facebook, which was the only social media back then in 2010. Our kids, your kids, wake up every morning knowing that if they make a mistake, if they have some sort of a fumble, every person they have ever met will know about it by dinner because of the Internet of Things and social media. That's a pressure I didn't have to worry about. And people always ask me, what was the difference between the minor leagues and the major leagues? I said, oh, it's quite clear. When I gave up a home run pitching for the Pawtucket Red Sox, all 407 people knew that I stunk. But when I gave up a home run for the Boston Red Sox, all 40,000 people not only knew that I stunk, but every single newspaper in the nation talked about it the next morning, and it was the ESPN play of the game. But I was 25. Our kids face that every day. It's unlike anything. So who am I to think that I really understood what Will was up against? I had no idea. And just once, I wish I would have said to him, wow, this blows, Will. This sucks. I don't know. I didn't have to do this. This is really hard. And I said to the kids today, this is really hard, and I'm impressed with you. I'm impressed with the way you handle this and you navigate through this and you find a way to just keep moving forward and advancing. But I want to challenge you and know that the guys next to you and the gals next to you, they're facing these same obstacles. And it's so much more fun to do it together. And that's really what we're trying to get you guys to recognize. You still have to do it. And I don't have the answer, Mom and Dad. I don't have the answer. But I'm asking you all to just be aware. I don't know what to do with a phone. You can tell them to put it in the big bowl by the front door at 9 o'clock so there's no more screens. And you can freak them out for the rest of the night because they don't know what they're missing. And the stress and anxiety gets worse than it's ever been. Fact. Or you can have them keep the phone and they can go through the barrage of crap that they read from 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock in the morning. Fact. I don't have an answer, but I'm aware. And I wasn't aware before Will died. And being aware just causes you to perhaps do things slightly differently. Maybe listen a little differently. Maybe ask one or two more questions. Maybe try to find a way to get them to share and to talk. I didn't talk about the athletic aspect of this, but I stood on the mound at Fenway Park. The highest you can get in baseball. I was a major league pitcher. I would not make Fairfield Ward's baseball team growing up today. Because when I was 10, I was a dork and I wouldn't have made the travel team. And they would have said, sorry, you can't play baseball anymore because rec league is kind of going away. That's fact. But back in the 70s, the world was a little bit more patient, and I was able to go from 5'3" as a freshman to 6'3" as a senior, and go from 100 pounds to 200 pounds. And I got a full scholarship to play college baseball in April of my senior year. They're having to make decisions now as sophomores. Never occurred to me, not once did I say to Will, wow, this is hard. Not once did I say, I don't know. And I think that is something that I'll just live with the rest of my life. I don't think he told his friends, yeah, my dad gets me. He told his friends that my dad loves me, but he never said that. And that hurts. But you know what? His brothers and his sister, I think they're saying that now. Because of Will. And I think that's a good thing. And I challenge you guys to recognize this concept and help create this culture where it's okay to not be okay. And to back off when they're not okay. And when Will's girlfriend did break up with him, I was there. And I told him about Debbie Feeker and how she regrets it today. And I said, look at your mom, she's hot. It's gonna be great, you're gonna be fine. It happened to me, you're gonna be fine. Let me tell you, you're gonna be fine, Will. And I hugged him and I wiped the tear and I was there. And I was being a good dad. And I remember hugged him, I said, you're gonna be okay, Will, you're gonna be fine. You're all right, pal. And I went upstairs thinking, yeah, Father of the Year award. Right? I'm not fine. In fact, I'm not sure I even want to live. He never said that to me. Of course he wouldn't say that to me because he knew what he would get. He would get this glass half full, of course you're fine. What do you have to be depressed about? Look at you, you're big, you're strong, you're happy, you're healthy, right? Because I didn't know that it was an illness. I didn't know it was a physical deformity, a physical issue in the brain. I didn't know that. I thought it was a character flaw. I thought it was a choice. I thought it was something you could talk somebody out of, and it's not. And I didn't know it. Now I do. And that's my challenge for all of you. We all have friends, we all have kids in our lives that are struggling. It doesn't mean they're suicidal, but they're struggling. And just be aware of that. And when I talked to the kids today, I just said, talk to your mom and dad. Nobody loves you like your mom and dad. But they're just like me, guys. And I shared with them how clueless I was. I said, they're just like me. They want you to be happy. They want you to be okay. And they love you so much. But we didn't go to class to be parents. No one tells us. We don't know anything. We just know what our parents did long before us. Long before internet and social media. We have no clue, so help us. Be there for us. Talk to us. And they looked at me, and they're like, okay, this might be a challenge. But they looked at me. And I think that's what's so important. A trusted adult knows and shows that it's hard. They still have to do it. But I wish I would have said to Will, yeah, Will, I know this is really hard. I know this is something I didn't have to do. So in doing this and saying these things to the kids and getting these kids to recognize the love and hope they have and understanding they have in each other and the ability to talk to each other, I also needed to figure out, okay, well, what happens when they meet that friend who is struggling? What happens if they meet a friend that says, yeah, here you can take all my stuff, I'm never going to need him again. Yeah, don't worry about me, I'm not going to be around for that. Right? What do they do when they see a friend that's struggling? They act. This is really important. They acknowledge, they care, and they tell. They acknowledge that it's hard. They acknowledge that life is hard. They acknowledge that it's just difficult right now, and I know that you're struggling, my friend. And then they care, and they be that life teammate, and they show the love, and maybe they try to point out just how green the grass is in their lives that they might not be able to see. And then most importantly, they tell, they talk. They bring it to an adult. They bring it to a trusted adult. They bring it to a teacher. They bring it to a coach. They bring it to a minister. They bring it to an aunt. They bring it to an uncle. They may not bring it to you, Dad, or you, Mom. They might not. But let's get them to bring it to someone. And this is where it's so much easier to talk to a friend. Acknowledge, care, and tell. And if your kids were at my presentation, I just gave you excellent dinner table conversation. Because I'll tell you one thing they don't want to talk about: how was their day? They were in school. Their day sucked. They don't want to talk about it. You're better off telling them about your day. You're better off asking, so what really pissed you off today? You get an answer. How was your day? How was practice? What did the teacher say? How do you think you did on that test? Right? It's these monosyllabic grunts is what we get. But when you give them I got a question for you, dude. Let's say you're getting married this Saturday. Who's in your wedding? That's a good one. You want to hear a conversation, especially if there's siblings involved? You're starting talking. I did that with my kids. I said, Tom, you're getting married Saturday, who's in your wedding? Michael goes, not me. Tommy's like, I would never ask you anyway. And I said to Susie, hey, they're talking. I asked the kids today. There were 5 girls sitting. I said, all right, girls, this weekend you're getting married, this Saturday. And they're looking at me like, oh boy. And I said, I want you to think about who are the 6 bridesmaids you're going to have. And then there were 5 guys over here. I said, all right, 5, you boys, you're getting married Saturday. Who are the groomsmen? Who are the guys, the friends in your life that you want to stand up there for the most important day of your life? Who are they? And they're looking at me, and okay, they're kind of getting it. And I said, now I'm going to ask you the real question. Do they know? Tell them. Can you imagine if a big football player after practice turned to another football player after a game and said, you know, if I was getting married this weekend, you'd be my best man. Exactly. Think of that. That's love. That's hope. That's opening up a door for companionship, for relationship, for communication, and for talking about it. And it's so fun to watch them think this through, because that's who are those life teammates. Tell your kids about your life teammates. Tell your kids about your wedding party. They'd much rather talk about that than how their test was. It's really interesting, and it's so much fun when you do that, because they are curious about us and what made us tick and why we chose them and how we communicate with them today. Because they have the power these friends have the power to find the hope when we can't see it. So then during my presentation, I moved to this one here, and I talk about an example in my life when I was playing baseball. And I was in Fenway, I was in Boston in 1988, and I talked about Mark McGuire, and I asked how many people know who Mark McGuire is? Oh, thank God. In the class, was about 25%? Bogues tells me at lunch, he goes, John, I don't think anybody knows who Jose Canseco or Mark McGuire is. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right? So then I did that, and I said, okay, I'm pitching in Fenway Park. It is like my 3rd game. It's April. It's early in the year. It's my 3rd game. I'm a rookie. And my first 2 games I had done really well, so I'm thinking, I've got this. This is awesome, right? So here I am in Fenway.
With Canseco, then followed by McGuire. No one could really come up with anything. The closest thing that we could think of was Rice and Lynn coming together.
That's the 6th time I've watched this today.
Over the screen in left center field.
Pre-steroids, Steve. Yes, I get it.
For the American League lead. 9-2 Oakland.
I'm just going to say it. I hate Mark McGuire. The ball went over the Green Monster. It went over the 50 feet of netting above the Green Monster. It went over Lansdowne Street on the other side. It went over the bars on the other side of Lansdowne Street, and it landed somewhere on the Massachusetts Turnpike. And every time I drive on the Massachusetts Turnpike past Fenway, I start shivering. So guys, you are looking at and listening to the guy who gave up the longest home run in the history of Fenway Park. Thank you very much. Okay, that sucked. There's nothing good about that. Nobody's going to show me the bright side of the road that day. I was miserable. That was awful. 32,000 people in Fenway chanting, use a Trautwein, bum, 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 right? I mean, that's fun, right? And I'm thinking, this is not good. And so the next day, I go to lunch with one of our old teammates, big brother. So Paul Tickey was my good friend. I grew up with him. And his big brother, Al, was in town, and I left him and 3 of his colleagues tickets to the game that night. So he got to witness that moonshot, right? So I go to lunch with him, and I am not happy. I'm pretty miserable. I'm thinking I'm going to get to the park today, and John McNamara is going to say, yeah, John, we're going to send you down to Pawtucket. I was waiting for those words. Al Tickey was my best friend's big brother. He used to throw wiffle balls to me when I was 12 years old. 10 years old. He knew me when I was a kid. And he's there, and he knows I'm upset. It's at lunch. He knows I'm not happy. And he says to me, John, can I ask you a question? I'm like, okay. And he goes, is it safe to say that when you were a kid, you dreamed about striking somebody out in the big leagues? What? You heard me. Yes. John, you did that last night. I was in Fenway Park, row 13, behind the Red Sox dugout, and I was watching my little brother's best friend, who I used to play with in the backyard, wearing a Boston Red Sox Fenway Park uniform, number 42, which has since been retired, but not because of me. And I saw you, John. I saw my little brother's best friend get not only his first, but his first and second major league strikeout in Fenway of all places. And I was so happy for you. I was so thrilled for you that you could achieve this lifelong dream, something you dreamed about since you were a little kid, John. All I'm thinking is this terrible, terrible night where McGuire hit this home run, and he's saying things to me while I'm thinking this. I was so thrilled for you. And you know what I said to him? I said,
The catcher can catch
I
the
did?
ball to the plate. The better
I
you
was
can
so
work
obsessed
the ball into the strike zone,
with the negative
into
of the
strike
home
zone.
run
The farther you're away from it, obviously,
that I didn't realize on that very night I had indeed achieved a lifelong dream. So I showed this to the kids, and I was saying, guys, this is what's so important here.
Some action on the fastball.
We get so
And John Trautwein
tied up in the negative in our lives.
Major league strikeout.
Now, Monty, I would think with a
We get so obsessed with the negative in our lives that sometimes we just don't see the good that's there. So sometimes you need a friend. And I know it's kind of corny. It breaks up the presentation a bit for the kids, but they got it. I said, I needed a friend that day to show me the good that I couldn't see. And I needed something else from that. I also needed a friend to show me how to learn from the good. Because we spend a lot of time learning from the mistakes. We spend a lot of time learning from the mistakes in our lives. And I told these kids, you're going to be in business, and they're going to say, learn, people, learn. This is a learning opportunity, corrective action, root cause analysis, preventive maintenance, continuous measurement, all that fun stuff. Yep, learn from your mistakes, learn from your mistakes. And I say, yeah, and eat and drink and sleep too. Of course you're going to learn from your mistakes. You want to be great? Learn from your successes. Learn from what differentiates you. Learn from what separates you, and find a way to package it and bottle it and use it every day. And when I looked at those pictures and I saw the home run pitch that I threw to Mark McGuire right down the middle, belt high, that basically screamed to Mark, Merry Christmas, buddy. And he crushed it. And my pitching coach, Bill Fisher, said, Trautwein, don't throw the ball down the middle to Mark McGuire. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Wes Gardner was my teammate. I remember Wes. He was a reliever in the bullpen with me. Around the bullpen that night, he was, Trot, come here. Sit next to me, he goes, what was that pitch you struck out Javier with? I said, a sinker. And he pushes me. He goes, dude, that's your pitch, man. You gotta throw that more often. Your ball moves more than any pitcher we got. Throw that, John. Go with your stuff. Don't leave your best stuff out here in the bullpen. Go with what got you there and throw it. So he gave me a coaching that was like, do. My pitching coach said, don't. And it's such an interesting concept. And I started to think about this as I started to give Will Live speeches, and I started to look at myself in the mirror and think, all right, I was a sinker ball pitcher. I was really good at that. I should have done that more often. And then I thought about myself today, and I'm thinking, why am I so happy when I give Will to Live speeches? I think there's two reasons. One, I'm preaching the gospel and I didn't even know it. I'm telling people to love each other. Two, I'm really good at it and I love it. And I thought, I'm a people guy. I'm a relationship guy. I'm a sales guy. I should be out selling, talking, inspiring, motivating. I should not be sitting behind a desk looking at a spreadsheet. I should not be analyzing reports. Yes, I can do that, but I shouldn't be doing that. So I started hiring people that love to do that, right? And I put them in their positive passion, and they can do that spreadsheet thing that they love so much. And I could go out and be with people and motivate people and inspire people, whether it was selling or working with customers or motivating my employees or motivating my family or talking to you guys or talking to the kids today. I was finding myself doing something that I'm really good at and doing something that I love. And it creates this positive passion that I didn't know I could have. And I certainly didn't think I could have when my son died. Man, God works in these ways. And I just think about this when I talk to these kids. What are you really good at? What do you love to do? What's your summer job going to be? What are you really good at? What do you love to do? What do you think you should be your major? Think about that, guys. And then I said to them, if you don't know what you're really good at, ask a friend and really listen to the answer. And then ask 3 more friends and really listen to that answer. That's not bad dinner table conversation either, especially if you have your kids with a couple of their friends. All right, Tommy, I want you to tell me what Joey's really good at. What? Tell me what Joey's really good at. And then he says it. I go, Joey, did you hear that? He's like, yeah. He said, why do you say that? And then they started talking. They go, dude, are you kidding? You're awesome at this. Right? Positive passion. And I think that's so important. And as I go through my life and I think about this concept of learning from the mistakes is good, but learning from your successes is great. And I look here, and this is a message to all of us. That kid is a great student. My dad would have said, do not come home. Don't even bother coming home with a C in history, John. You're better than that. Right? Old school. 1972, 1980. That kid's a great student. What's happening in the classes where he's getting A's that's not happening in the classes where he's getting a C? I wish my dad would have asked me that. Why does this customer love us? This customer doesn't love us. Oh, we make mistakes for these guys. Well, no, we make mistakes for everybody around. We're human. Maybe it's how we handle the mistakes. Maybe it's how we take ownership of the mistakes. Maybe it's how we communicate. Maybe it's our relationship. Maybe we don't know. Maybe we should ask them. What do you like about us? And then we really listen and we package it and we try to apply it to the guys that don't like about us. This foundation has totally changed the way I approach my business. And it has totally put me in a different light. And I have this passion that you're looking at a guy whose son took his life. And look at me. I'm having a blast. I would have never thought that. I found a positive passion and I found a way to implement it into each day. And I think that's what's so important for us. And it's a great lesson for our kids to think about that. What do you love to do? And by the way, it doesn't have to be a career move. If your kid loves to play the guitar, he should play the guitar. And I told them today, if you love to play the guitar, book the time and play it. Because life will get in the way, and it takes away that positive passion, and it puts you in that negative mood. If you love if you love pottery, I was going to say pot. What do I say? Help me. Priscilla. If you love to throw pottery, throw pottery. Find a time for it. Book the time. That's what's so important. And I think the last thing is it puts you in that positive passion, and it starts, because that's a little thing. And we need these little things. And it was these little things that got me through year 1 and year 2 and year 11. It's the little things. And people ask me, what's the difference between you today and before Will died? And I said, well, I guess the main thing is I'm not that concerned about the future anymore. I'm really focusing on right now, and I'm really looking for little things. I'm looking for base hits. I'm looking for ground balls. I'm looking for good blocks. I'm looking for good passes. I'm not looking for homers. I'm not looking for touchdowns. I'm looking for these little things, and they happen all the time. And it's life by 1,000 smiles, and this world needs it today. And so let's help create that culture where they recognize the good that happens each day. And I look at this coach, and I look at the passion that he has. And I think about, clearly he's saying, hey, you did a really good job. I'm really proud of you. Let's meet for coffee tomorrow, right? And I look at that, and I say, okay, I had over 200 coaches in my life. I actually counted this once. I was giving a speech, and so I did the research. I actually made a little chart. It was like 207 coaches. And then I said to myself, of the 207, 7 of them get Christmas cards from me. There's probably more that deserve it, but 7 get the Christmas card. Why? What differentiated those 7? And then I'll talk to the athletic directors tomorrow. I'm speaking to every athletic director in the state tomorrow. I'm going to talk about this. And when I was at the schools today, I challenged the teachers. You're a coach. Are you getting Christmas cards? Think about that. Because when I did my research and I really looked closely at those 7, I recognized that every one of those guys gave me that face. They were all over me. But you know what? When I did well, they gave me that face in a different way. John, get over here. That's what I'm talking about. You finally did what we were talking about. You boxed out, you got the rebound. Way to go! You good? You're coming with me on the road. When a coach did that, and he got excited about me doing well, he was sending me the signal that he truly cared about me and that he loved me, and I would run through the wall for that guy. And you teachers, you trusted adults in the lives of kids, are you motivating them in a way? Are you getting truly passionate about when they do well? You don't have to be Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight, you coaches, Bobby Knight was coaching college kids that didn't have the internet. It's a different world. If you're gonna be Bobby Knight when they do bad, and be Bobby Knight when they do well. Show them that you love them. Because good coaches, they say, have the capacity to love their players. Good teachers, they say. Good ministers, they say. Good youth group leaders, they say. Good employers, they say, have the capacity to love their players. Great ones show it. It's the showing that matters. My high school baseball coach, I thought he hated me. He was so mean to me. He was constantly giving me this look. I thought he hated me. And Will died 35 years later. And that same coach who I thought hated me got in his car and drove from Chicago to Atlanta, went to the funeral, saw me, hugged me, told me he loved me, got in his car and drove 13 hours back home. We could have been friends. We could have had a relationship. He loved me. That was the only time he ever showed it. I guess I'm being overreactive. He gave me the ball, so maybe I guess that's a sign of love. He did give me the ball. I did get to play. But my point is, in this world today where it is so negative, we can't be afraid to show or save some of that passion for the positive, because they need it now more than ever. And when you think about the pandemic and what we're up against right now, and this fact that the effect of the pandemic is taking sort of it's taking our little smiles away. It's taking away those little things that we love. And I get asked now to speak to corporations. I'm on Zoom calls. I'm like, this is an example, guys. You're in a meeting right now. And when the meeting ends, you're not going to walk out and say, boy, that was a waste of time. Or say to your buddy, hey, what are you doing tonight? Hey, how about the Braves? Wasn't that great? Or hey, how's your dad doing? You don't have that conversation anymore because you're in the meeting and there's a little red button on the bottom that says leave, and you hit leave. Poof! It's gone. You're alone in your room, which is exactly what our kids did for a year online. Poof! I'm alone in the room. I didn't walk down the hall. I didn't stop at the locker. I didn't have that camaraderie. The human spirit craves companionship, and COVID is trying to take that away from us, so we got to find ways to not let it. And I think that's what's so important. And it's a year and a half that's just been so difficult. And it's so nice that we're finally back together again and we can be in a room like this and begin rebuilding that culture that we had. And when I think about this, you know, I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow night, and before I can help you, I got to make sure I'm okay. And guess what, guys? I am not okay. John Trautwein is a mess, and he knows it. And right now, I'm in therapy. Right now, this very moment, 9:10, I'm in therapy. This is my therapy. I'm talking about it. Jim, this is your therapy when you talk about it. Susie, my wife, this is not her therapy. She breaks out in hives if she has to public speak, and she's really good at it, but that's not hers, right? So I found something that helps me. But the bigger point is, I'm not afraid to say, yeah, I'm not okay. So I do need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and I'm helping myself. And I do seek companionship, and I do seek comfort from my friends and my teammates, and we talk. Listen to the silence is a good one. Listen to the silence. 1 in 5 of the kids you know are struggling, so listen to that silence. That's an important one. I wish I would have listened to the silence a little bit more. The importance of your time shouldn't be overlooked. And I said this to the kids today. I said, when the pandemic started, I didn't know what to do, so I basically created a 100 Days of Hope initiative. And every day, I put together these little tidbits here, and I would put them on Facebook and Instagram and talk about the power we have to deliver hope to each other. And I did it 100 days in a row, using all the concepts of will to live and life teammates and the experiences I had. You know, the baseball one said, think of all the poor slobs that never got to sit in a dugout. My dad said that to me once. It didn't matter if we won or lost. You were there. You were on the team. You were in the teammate, right? That's such a great line. Think of all the poor slobs who never sat in the dugout. That's a good one. And I talked to that football program today. This youth football program donated $16,000 in Kevin's name to Will to Live. That means 32 high schools, each 1,500 kids. You guys do the math. Get implemented with the Signs of Suicide program. Afterglow. This power they have of being in the game is just so amazing. And when I talk to these kids, I said to them, guys, when you're my age, you're not going to remember. I know you got a big game Saturday. You're not going to remember if you won or lost. I promise you that. But you'll remember each other. That's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of being on teams like that. You have the ability to really understand the concept of a teammate and the power that a teammate has to deliver hope to his fellow teammates. And I think about my day today. And yes, I had a great life today. And tomorrow it starts again. But there are days that it's less than great. But tomorrow it starts again. And I think that's what's so interesting about my approach these days, is I started to take things one day at a time. Our minister said to us when we got married, give each other all that you have, one day at a time. Some days you're going to be able to give more because that's all you have that day, right? And so this concept of one day at a time is a good one. It's one of the things I said to Jim. I said, Jim, you're going to have to take this 1 hour at a time for a while. Don't worry about tomorrow. Just worry about the next 3 hours, because the grief is so strong. One day at a time is a good one. And I said to these kids, every day, take it one day at a time. Have a great life today. Do something in that life that you can use that positive passion. And then know that tomorrow the sun's going to come up again and we start again. And talk about it together. Finally, as we talk about this thing, and when I think about what Jim and Kristen are doing now, and this tragedy, and 10% of life is what happens to you, and 90% is how you react to it, how you choose to address it, how you choose to respond to it. And I said to them, I said, remember, it's 1090, it's not 199. So I read a different version of that, and by saying, it's okay to not be okay. So give yourself the 10. It's okay. Because life is hard and life is difficult. And we just can't, the more you sweep these things under the rug, the worse it gets. Embrace the waves, embrace the pain, embrace the tears, embrace the love. 1090, Jimmy, 1090. Think about that one. It's a great one. It's a nice way to remind you, say, hey, 1090. 2 meanings. 1, it's how you choose to react. And 2, don't forget to give yourself the 10, because life, like the cross, is hard. This slide the kids didn't say, but I did talk to them about it. Dinner table conversations. How do we get these kids to talk? So take a look at these things. Replace your day. Do they know about you? Do they know about your friends? Do they know about your history and your day and your dreams? They'll be very interested in it. Have those kind of conversations with them. Please do this for me. Use me. And Jim, I think I'm okay in saying use Jim. You heard John, you heard Jim speak today. You have some friends that are struggling? You got some friends that you think could use a... How about you? What are your friends telling their parents about you? Show them that you listened. Show them that you understand that life is hard And they may not be all rosy and happy. Something I never did with Will. Those are good conversations to have, guys. So much more meaningful than just, how was your day? And we ask them, how was our day, for all the right reasons, because we care and we're interested, want to show that. But maybe show it in a different way. Tell me about what you thought about Mr. Trautwein's chat. About what do you think about this life teammates? Who would be in your wedding party? That's an interesting one, right? And have those kind of conversations. Use life teammates and use the will to live story, right? And I think this concept of when I do get the call, and I got a call today from a coach worried about his daughter. And I called him back, got his voicemail, said, we'll just keep trying. I get at least one a week. I'm the will to live guy. I'm a dad. And what I tell them is two things. Take it seriously. Professional help is absolutely important. Can you give them a chance to give? When we're struggling and we're able to help somebody, our struggle dissipates a little bit. Giving them the opportunity to help somebody else is a wonderful way to make yourself feel better about yourself. This is exactly what I do. This is why I do these. This is why I let Ab and Steve treat me like Elvis and book me for 20 nights and 15 days. Because it's giving and it's fun. And it makes me, I know it's the right thing. I know it's something that Will would want, this concept of telling kids to love each other. I was just in the chapel over there with a youth group kids, and I said, before the last thing Jesus said to his disciples in the Last Supper, the last thing he said before he was taken was, I have this one commandment, and it's just love each other. That's what we're doing here. If I can get these guys to say, I love you, I can get these guys to say, hey, I'm struggling. They all have life teammates. You have all life teammates. You have people in your lives that are struggling. Understand that. Remember that. Think about that before you make the comment, before you do the trash talk, whatever it might be, because it's important. No matter where you are, love is what heals. And I told these kids, and this is the most fun I always have in all of these presentations, I try to get these, I want you guys to not be afraid to share your love and to go where the love is and to create that culture where love is. And I say to them, okay, I'm going to ask you guys to do the same thing right now. I want everybody in this room, in honor of your family, in honor of those that you've lost, in honor of the kids, in honor of the relationships in your lives, I want each one of you to turn to the person next to you right now and say, I love you, man. So when we do this, whenever we do this, this is what happens. I did not tell you guys to stand up and start hugging each other. Right? I simply said to the kids, I told the kids, I said, I just said, turn and say, I love you, man. But the same thing happened. It's 5 minutes. When there's 1,000 kids in it takes 5 minutes to calm them down. Right? It's a good thing. We need it. Never has the world needed a few more love you mans than they do right now. And I think the challenge I have for these kids and the challenge I have for all of you is to try to understand what's going on with my life, and that is I realize that whenever I said I love you, I thought the receiver was the benefactor of that little I love you transaction. This foundation, this community, this work that we're doing has taught me that it's the giver that really gets the benefit. So drop a love you man on somebody every once in a while and you'll feel better. Don't be afraid. To all of you, this is a good one for you guys. Think of your groomsmen. Think of your bridesmaid. If you have their phone number, text, I just was thinking about you today. Love you, man. Wait to get that response. It's a great one. And it's one of these things where you're telling the people that you care about in your lives that you're there for them and encouraging them to talk to them, that they'll talk to you if they're struggling, which is really what the whole foundation is all about and what this message is all about. And we need our life teammates. We need to recognize our life teammates, and we need to tell our life teammates that we're there for them and that we love them. So somewhere here, do we have books here, Ab? Okay. What's that? Okay. So anyway, my book is basically this presentation, but it goes into a lot more detail. It tells more stories about the Red Sox, stories about teammates, stories about hope, stories about what the kids have done to help deliver hope. We had 2,000 of the books donated to the foundation, so I'm giving them away. They're great means of communicating. They're great ways of spreading this awareness. They're great gifts, right? So I mean, it's just one of these things. We'll have them back there. Just take one, and you'll hear the story. And yep, you're going to cry and you're going to laugh, but I hope you're going to be inspired by the fact that someone like me can be standing up here and feel blessed. And that's a great thing, that we were able to take something, we were able to create something so positive and so well received from something that was so tragic. And it's really, really motivational to me. And as you can see, I've been talking for a long time, and this is my 5th one, and I don't want to stop, and you guys all want to go home. So know that I love you, and I thank you all very much, and I appreciate you all coming out on thank you. Thank you, guys. So if anybody has questions, I'm happy to take some questions. If not, yes. Great question. What if they don't have teammates? That was one that I struggled with for so long as I was putting this together in those early days. And then I said to myself, well, actually they do. It just might not be their peers. They might be new to class, but there are people in their lives that are teammates. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's mom. Maybe it's aunt. Maybe it's their minister, whatever. They do exist. But then I challenge the kids to say, because this is how Kevin was. I know this. And this is how Will was. When there was the new kids sitting by themselves at lunch, a life teammate goes and says, hey, come join us. That kind of thing, because there are people out there that don't have life teammates in that school setting. It was a very difficult decision for me to make, and I decided I did the 80-20 rule and went with it. But then as I started to think about it, it was great to talk to these kids and say, be that teammate that takes the new member of the team under their wing. And that was something that Will always did. I know it's something that Kevin did too, and I think that's what's so nice about what I'm saying. And I said this to Jim today. I said, Kevin's up there and he just elbowed an angel and said, check out my dad. Right? And I think Will's proud of me. I think Will would love this. Will would love this concept of loving your teammates. And that keeps us going. He'll love this concept of being that teammate that reaches out to the new guy or the loner, whatever it might be. Yeah, Jim.
Because Kevin, we saw his depression, and it exacerbated during COVID. And, I used to think Kevin was kind of a loner. And he was spending a lot of time in his bed, and there wasn't, he was a junior in high school, and he didn't have friends coming over. But when he passed, me and Kristen took the time to talk to just about every kid who came to that wake, tell us something. And when we were concerned about it, we were asking the guidance counselor, is there something, what do you see? They're like, oh no, he's in the mix of everything. And he's with people, he's smiling, but the disease is so powerful. I'm telling you, all these kids, he lit up the room when he walked in. We looked forward to going to school. Think about that. We looked forward to going to school because Kevin was there. He made classes interesting. And so almost to a kid, they all said this to us. But in Kevin's mind, it was that's how powerful this disease is. He felt that he didn't fit in. He felt like he didn't have any friends. He said it was exhausting trying to fit into different groups. So they described the best kid at Ward, not the most popular kid at Ward, but the best kid at Ward. And he gave so much of himself. And it's a powerful disease. But yes, there are kids out there who don't have any friends, literally. And I know kids. There's people in our family that are struggling like with that right now. So it's a very valid question. But and one of the things that we say when I speak is, if we can all just be a little kinder, a little more generous, a little, more compassionate, empathetic, see that kid who's sitting by themselves, go to them. So.
Any other questions? Anybody? So if you Google the Will Live Foundation, there's an email address, contact us, that goes to me directly. So if you did have questions and you did want to ask, please do it. And we're good at responding. But I think most importantly, your main takeaway here is that just be aware. Show them that you're aware that it's hard. Because it is. And it's hard for us too. Everything I've said to the kids, I could have done this whole presentation, never mentioned the kids, exactly as you saw it up there, about us and this craziness that we have. Yes?
Question. You are clearly an extrovert, and you already said how much you love people, and that's where this is your therapy. You also mentioned your wife, not. So for somebody like her, who's not a people person, who's more of an introvert, I'm curious what her therapy is.
So Susie was immediately she wanted to get back to normal as quickly as we could. And so when Will died, similar to the Kuska family, people were giving us food. And she wanted to start cooking. And we had 6 weeks of food in our garage from people keep bringing us food every day, things like that. So her therapy was, I need to get back to a routine. Now her therapy also was going to a therapist too, right? So it's just a different thing. And we all approach these things differently. No two are the same. This is what makes it so hard. This is what makes this illness so hard. Is that even the medication, it's like, if strep throat, take penicillin, right? But with mental illness and depression, there's 87 different cocktails that may or may not work. Depends on the person, and it's very, very hard. So the best way to answer that question is that everybody has their own way of it. And what I had to do very quickly, and by the way, there were a few interventions in my house where my kids said, Dad, if I hear Life Teammates one more, I'm going to throw up. Like, I get it, right? But it was important, right? And I had to remember that, okay, Will's gone. I need to live for the living. I still have Tommy and Michael and Holland. They want me to be there for them. And yeah, we all miss Will and love Will, but if I'm all Will, now they're losing their dad. So that hit me pretty hard. And I had to okay, I got to back off a little bit and get back to being a dad, get back to being their dad.
And you talk about therapy. Chris and I are seeing therapists. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm on antidepressants. I probably couldn't function without them. If you think your kid's having troubles, so there's a shortage of mental health professionals. So start early. We got into it late, and there are antidepressants can help, but as John said, okay, they try you at 25 milligrams. See how that doesn't work? Okay, then for 2 weeks we're trying 50. So it's always trying things and just get a balance. And in Kevin's case, that didn't work. And I know I see Senator Tony Lang back there, and he's done a lot of work. He had a workshop last night about the resources that are available to parents and so forth. But if you do think that your child needs help, start now.
It's so important, guys. And even the way Jim just said, he said, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm on antidepressants. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm on high cholesterol medication. Right? So I challenge you to don't be ashamed of that. Yeah, I'm on antidepressants. I'm messed up. I'm not okay. Right? It's just, Robin Williams took his life. The day that we had Gwinnett Baseball, the Braves AAA Life Teammates Day at Gwinnett Field, Robin Williams takes his life. I get interviewed by 11 Live News in Atlanta. How can Robin Williams do such a cowardly thing? How can Robin Williams, a man who had it all, had so much money, have such disrespect for his family and his loved ones? And I almost came across the camera. And I said, oh, yeah, I'm on TV now. I know. It's like George Harrison of the Beatles. He had everything. What a coward. How could he die of cancer? What a coward. And the guy looked at me. I'm like, dude, Robin Williams had an illness and it killed him. Simple as that. This is the problem. It wasn't a cowardly act. It was an illness that took his life. And it's so hard because before I knew all of this, I thought maybe Will's act was a bit cowardly. So I didn't know. I was uneducated and unaware like everybody else, including the 11 Alive newscaster who felt greatly bad. And I kind of felt really bad, but that really hit me hard. So this is tough. This is a put mental in front of everything, it becomes hard.
If you read John's book, his story is our story, and he describes your son through pictures, right?
Yeah.
And the pain that these kids are going through is unbelievable. Right?
By the way, that's a question I get asked a lot. Did he show any signs? And he didn't. So he was masking it. And after he died, the coroner came over and the police were over because it was a crime and all this ridiculousness. And they showed me this folder that they got out of his backpack, and in the folder were pictures of people killing themselves, hand-drawn. I never went through his backpack. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not telling you to do it or not do it, but I never went through his backpack, and it was in his backpack. That's a tough one, right? So it just, you just don't know.
Again, if you're concerned, Kevin was a smart kid. There were no traces of any type of research. Kevin Hutchinson, you don't learn to tie a loose one night.
Right.
You researched it, you have to. And so kids are good at, they say, Kevin was very good at hiding his trail, but there's a great meme on the internet, it's with Robin Williams, that says people with depression aren't faking it, they fake being happy.
Yeah.
That was Kevin.
Yeah, as well.
And nobody knew it. They thought he was a happy kid or, this gregarious kid in school, but, he had a different life. He always wanted to help other people. And I don't know.
Well, and I think that's what we do, Jim, right? We find what motivated him, we find what he was all about, and we try to incorporate it into our world and keep his afterglow and keep his light alive. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. The vast majority of our kids are not suicidal. But they're struggling, and everything I said applies to every kid you know, whether they have depression or not. It's hard right now, and if we can create this culture where we're not afraid to drop a love you man on somebody, we're not afraid to talk about it, it's going to be a better place. And that's really the challenge of this. So thank you all very much. We've kept you way too long. Love you, man.